Tanager Place and the Meraki Institute of Learning proudly present Together We Rise, a series on capturing the journeys of resilience and well-being based on the Rise, Wellness, and Resilience framework. For those of you who are joining us today for the first time, this show is a series digging deep into the concept of resilience. In this interview series, we are talking to those in the corridor who have exhibited courage and strength in the face of hardship. These individuals are here with us to share their personal story of resilience. We hope this series will inspire hope and possibility in others. Because when we call on our courage and show up in the midst of struggle, we offer a bright place and to not give up. Together we can rise with the means to manage, restore, and grow. Welcome, Noreen. Thank you so much for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Tanya, thanks for having me today. My name is Noreen Bush, as you know, and I am the proud superintendent of Cedar Rapids Community School District, the school district from which I graduated.
That is proud.
Yes, very, very proud to serve my home district. So that's my primary identity, I would say, but I am also a mother of two wonderful boys who are really not boys anymore. They're young men. Tom's 21 and Gus is 14. And my husband, Russ, is also an educator. So all in the family.
It is all in the family. And I don't think I knew that your husband was also an educator.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
He's got more of a tech background too.
Yes.
Does a lot of technology kinds of things too.
That's super powerful. Well, Noreen, you and I have connected in regards to this initiative because I felt like you were such a perfect person to represent what we're trying to achieve. And that's just really telling a story and a journey of wellness and resilience and working through and growing through struggle. And you have a story yourself, and one that I believe is incredibly powerful. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about a journey that you have taken in regards to some struggle in cultivating resilience?
So I would say certainly the past 2 years has been maybe the trifecta of both my professional and personal life, where resilience, maybe sometimes I don't even know that's what's happening, but that I have certainly experienced struggle, but always hope and to move things forward. And so in the spring of 2020, we all experienced a tremendous struggle when the pandemic hit our global world. And so down to Cedar Rapids Community School District, the governor shut down our schools, which was, of course, appropriate, and how we could protect the health of everyone at that point in time. So at that same time, about 2 weeks later, I just wasn't feeling great, but I was attributing it to the pandemic. And I'm not one who goes to my doctor frequently, admittedly. I do take care of myself, but I thought, I just don't feel quite right. And so it was Good Friday of that same spring, and I called my doctor's office, and I didn't have any COVID symptoms, and so I was able to get in right away. My doctor just did some assessments, and he looked at me and said, I really want to do a CT scan because something's not quite right. He sent me to get a CT that very same day at Mercy on the north side of town here in Cedar Rapids. Same thing, very tight measures, and you couldn't have really anybody come with you. So I was flying solo on this act and went in and got the CT scan done, and he said, stay there and I'll call you because the radiologist will read it pretty quick and we'll talk over the phone. Because the pandemic stuff was also going on, there was lots of media requests about what are you going to do? And so I'm on the phone just, responding. And I kind of thought something's, here, but I didn't really occur to me that it could be a big thing.
And your mind doesn't go to worst case scenario. You're
Never.
An optimistic soul.
Never. I'm like, I got to take care of kids. They'll take care of this thing on the side. Like it's interrupting my day. Okay. I don't have time for this. And so he called and he just said, listen, you have, there's definitely a mass in your pelvic area and it looks like it's spread. I'm concerned. I'm sending you to an oncologist right now. And she's going to meet you at Mercy Hospital. Her name's Dr. Stroh.
Yeah.
And he said, I have all the confidence in the world, but I think that we need to address this today.
Wow.
And how fortunate I was. Because of the pandemic, I had easy and immediate access and found out that afternoon. She said, this is cancer of some kind, but we're not sure. Fast forward a week later, cervical cancer that certainly had, it's metastatic, so it spread to other areas of my system. And the original Friday was Good Friday of something's going on. The next Friday I was having chemo.
Wow.
And so it was that quickly that things happened. And I will tell you that entire week was also making decisions about how to serve our kids.
Yeah.
So my own diagnosis seemed like, again, I had some appointments, I had to get some biopsies, and it was just, okay, I can fit that on my schedule at 9 o'clock, but I gotta talk to my board in the afternoon, so I really don't have time for all these medical appointments. So it was amazing to me that healthcare system was so flexible and supportive of me. And I was just plugging along. And then on that Friday, I had all-day treatment. It was a 7-hour treatment in an infusion chair. And I was on the phone on my computer. And I think it wasn't until maybe a couple months later, I'm like, wait a minute, I think I have cancer.
Yeah. Like it caught up to you.
And this is happening.
Yeah.
So when I think about resilience, I know that I can't do that alone. And certainly, I don't mean to be dismissive about my diagnosis or the pandemic, but it was certainly at that rate.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. And I didn't really have much time to stop and think. And when I finally had the time to stop and think, I thought about all the people who were around me, not this dreaded thing in front of me.
Yeah.
My family, my amazing sisterhood. I'm the youngest of 7 kids.
Oh my goodness.
And there's 3 boys and 4 girls, and love my brothers, but sisters. So there's something about sisters, right? My sisters certainly being on my right side and behind me.
Yeah.
And my mother is certainly devout in her faith, and that's always been a part of me too. And raised by a single mom who did the same thing: move forward, but surround yourself with loved ones. But this team at Cedar Rapids Community School District and neighboring school districts where I've worked in this community just supported me so much with kind of the everyday things of life, like Dairy Queen dilly bars, which everybody needs in their life, but meals and prayers and love. And the whole time for me is certainly, I'm so appreciative of all those people. I know I've lived my life with purpose.
Yeah.
And I feel so blessed to have had a calling to be an educator. So the whole time that I'm dealing with this personal thing, I really feel like my loved ones were taking care of that for me, and my healthcare team is taking care of that for me. And my eye was on our kids and supporting, them to that spring of 2020, and our nutrition team getting them meals every day.
Absolutely.
And our teachers creating lessons for them to do remotely, and our school board having the vision of what else can we do, what other supports can we have, and our administrative team just leading through it all, and our families and what they had to endure that spring to keep their kids home. That was where my focus was.
Yeah.
And then also, what are we going to do in the fall of 2020? So fast forward then to August. So I'm going through treatment that entire time. We're feeling pretty good as a team. We're getting lots of input from our families about we can do this back to school business. We'll have in-person learning, and we're going to offer remote options, and we had all that to go. And then August
hits in August, right? Oh,
a natural disaster. So that's what I call the trifecta.
absolutely.
For my personal trifecta was the derecho.
Yeah.
And for Cedar Rapids Community School District, for those who don't know, we have 31 schools, but we also have our own district building and other offsite locations. So about 34 buildings, all of them affected by the derecho, to the point where, the governor really certainly wanted all of us to open our doors for at least 50% of instructional time for students. And we were behind that and making mitigation efforts to make sure that could happen. But then I had schools that couldn't open their doors because they were destroyed. And so, again, Cedar Rapids community rallied around us and just said, what can we do to make this happen? And so I call our district and I call our community a hope spot. And I've talked about hope a little bit here. And Tanya, you and I have talked about this. To me, hope is not just a wish. And I think sometimes I've heard folks say, hope is not a strategy. I disagree with that wholeheartedly, because I see what hope does for children, for any human. And when someone is hopeless, that is not just absent of hope, that is absent of resilience, that is absent of everything I just described in my own personal journey. It's absence of not having a support system, not knowing what a next step might be. And when I think about hope, I think about it's a vision in front of you of what's possible. But it can't happen just by visioning it. You have to have some things in place to get there. So when the derecho hit, that hope spot of Cedar Rapids was pretty clear to me. We are going to open our doors again. I felt that was my primary responsibility as the leader of our district to say, we're going to be okay because we're doing this and this and this and this. And with your support, Kennedy High School will open again. It was our last building to open in mid-January that year. But it opened. And today it's open. What I've seen with our, not just our children, but with our staff is an incredible amount of stress. As everybody's experienced that. And when folks don't have hope and they can't see what the next thing is, it's easy to retreat back and say, I just can't, anymore. And so I think that's where we have to have our systems and whether that be our best friends or our partners in life or our colleagues, our faith systems, others, who are those people in our life that when we're feeling that I just can't do this anymore, who's your one person? Who's your phone call? Who's it? We got to have coffee today.
And what you talk about, Noreen, and we've chatted about this in regards to the RISE Wellness and Resilience Framework. The R stands for relationships, because we know that the relationships and the connections we have can be such a pathway toward resilience. And when we talked about your journey in the trifecta, it seemed like the relationships was such a key point and such an element that helped push you and helped you through that journey.
Yes. Relationships, you just cannot underestimate the power of positive relationships. And as you heard me talk about my journey, I'm just thinking about this now in a reflection. I have such relationships of support. My friends, I have a friend, she's an amazing woman. I'm going to use her name. Her name is Debbie. And Debbie will just send me a text to say, how are you doing today? Right? It's just that takes a moment. And she's also, though, the person I said, listen, prior to working in Cedar Rapids, I worked in the college community school district. So I have friends and former students and parents in which I'm connected to there. And she became my person. I said, okay, I'm telling you and you tell everybody else because I just can't. And so I think that that's the piece that for me, it's that support system, it was inherent. The administrative team in Cedar Rapids was just inherent. Every Friday, something was showing up on my doorstep from one of my team members. That I would, and this is when we were all working from home, right? So I didn't know it was happening, but it would happen every Friday, something showing up on my doorstep. Sometimes you don't know the relationship you have or how maybe you've impacted someone. I haven't cried about having cancer. What chokes me up is the relationships and the amount of support I get. And here I start right now with that. But in my office at my job, I have these 2 baskets and they are full of notes and cards and well wishes. And that support, I think what it's shown me is just sending someone that little email or the Post-it note, it can make all the difference in the world. that particular day.
And it makes me think about, when you may feel a little bit of discouraged or just sadness or frustration, it's something you can pull out and read. And the next thing you know, your spirits are lifted.
Yes.
You feel a sense of kind of meaning and purpose and connection back.
Yeah.
But the other thing I think about, Noreen, that you talked about is that relationships are so key, and you have to reach out to those people and also communicate what you need. And that's
Yes.
okay.
Right,
And you're not burdening people. People want to show up for you.
This was, so in those circumstances, people say, well, let me know what you need. They really mean that,
Yes.
but they may not know exactly. I got some advice from a friend of mine who also had gone through a health journey. And she said, people want to do something, but think about what they're good at, what you know about, and something that will make them feel like they're really. So
I love that.
yeah, and it's not just me that's going through this. My two sons and my
Absolutely.
husband. So sometimes I didn't really need something. I knew they need something.
Something.
So I would
Yes.
say, my popcorn lovers and snack lovers would love that kind of snack on the Friday basket. So if you take care of my boys this week, that would be great.
Because that'll take care of me.
That takes care of all the joy that they're like, look at what's on the basket today, and it's not, mom's candles and, things for mom. But they're like, that's nice. But it was for them.
Yes.
And it was joy for me.
Yes.
We had, I couldn't mow my lawn, and our neighbors came over and mowed our lawn. And, those sorts of things, and people do want to help. And so when I think about our families in those situations, I think sometimes as educators, these are people whose hearts, and I would say this is true for our mental health professionals, our hearts are so pulled to caring for others and helping others. And sometimes that care is so huge that we forget to take care of ourselves, because it's always moving forward. But also with that, if it's a family in crisis or a child in crisis, sometimes we assume what they might need. Because we think about, what I would want, or when I had this other experience, what that person might want. It's really important to ask the question, what do you specifically need? And not assume that that person needs the same thing as someone else.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love taking the concept of let's take the stigma aside, right? Of what sometimes our society tells us about needing help. Needing help and asking for help is sometimes the bravest thing we can do.
Yeah.
But oftentimes we feel like, asking for that shows a sign of weakness, but it is the very birth of resilience and moving forward through the struggle.
So our district office team this year went through a learning together around Dare to Lead work.
Yes.
Brené Brown's courage. But what courage really is that vulnerability.
Yes.
And that vulnerability is strength. And so knowing what we need and asking for help, I always say, I know my strengths, but I also am pretty clear about my blind spots. And I want to surround myself with people who can help fill those blind spots, to challenge my thinking, but to help me. And I am the hope person. I am pretty out there, but making those strategies and the plan to I know I need help to make those strides forward to get to that place of hope. And what I think the key factor too about that hope formula is the vision, strategies, but then when you see results,
Celebrate.
It's not the same as it was 2 years ago. So now we know, and we know, and we know, and as we know better, we do better. And I think that's true with any crisis in life. When you know better, you can do better. And the hard part is sometimes you have to go through the crisis in order to be able to do better. But having those support systems is critical.
Yeah. I love when you talk about celebrating the wins and the roadmap, right? And I think that looks different for everyone. A win for one person might be getting up and showering today. A win for another person might be going to coffee and connecting with a friend, but really looking at those tangibles and looking at the perseverance through those things and showing up every day in the midst of struggle.
Yeah, I think that sometimes when we make a goal, it's like this big whopper thing, but bringing it down to what's doable today and what can we celebrate. The old adage of 21 days to make or break a habit, right? You know, but truly, when you do things for 3 weeks in a row and it becomes that daily thing. So if it is to get up every day, shower every day, and just take a walk every day, you know, those it sounds easy, but it can be super hard to do. And then when you have accomplished that for 21 days in a row, celebrate it.
Share it with your connections.
Absolutely.
Let people lift you up around it.
And let them help you. It's like, I know today was a rough day.
I love it.
Tomorrow I need your help.
Yes.
Can you please go with me?
Yes.
You know, or will you talk with me on the phone while I'm walking for 15 minutes?
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of promotion of self-care right now. And what does that look like, sound like, feel like? And I don't want it to feel like a buzzword out there and like it's the thing to talk about. I think the reality is self-care for each person needs to be what they need personally. And if it is every day, I'm going to make sure that, you know, I drink 2 more glasses of water. That is self-care. Where someone else might be, you know, they're advanced in their athleticism and they're going to work out for an extra half hour. But whatever that is, feeding the mind and the body and the spirit is so important. And which if it's those 3 things, which one are you not taking care of right now?
Yeah, our E for RISE is enhancements, which is the interconnection of our mind, body, and spirit. And I'm sure for you along your journey, you had to look at things across those 3 categories, because when you're getting chemo or when you're going through radiation, there is a body stressor that is happening. And how do you maintain that level of health while also trying to cultivate your mind and the things that help you also stay spiritual and in this existential or faith or hope, however you call it, this sense of meaning and purpose or altruism? How did you figure out kind of the balance of all those 3 interconnections?
So I think at times I wasn't being intentional about it. So the mind was always engaged because it was constantly in motion and in constant motion of strategizing, problem solving, bum, 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 bum. And maybe that was my constant distractor as well. But secondly, the spiritual part of things, as I mentioned, my mother earlier, just has been that pillar for me and my siblings. But also I do have a great faith leader in my life, but that's individually anchors, but to me, I find it within a community. And so even those who don't share the same personal faith as me, they're sharing a faith or a positive spirit, a belief, and just that energy alone of positivity. And even if it's a funny joke or something to lift the spirit, I find to be the most healing part of things. And so the physical part as a chemo patient, the hardest part is like the proactive things that you would usually do, you know, exercise. Your body gets beat up. So it's just paying attention to what I was eating. But honestly, I just said, healthcare team, take care of me and I'm going to do whatever you tell me. And I just leaned on them. And I have an amazing medical team, incredible medical team. That spirit of community is another way to think about spirit. But I think for me, it was the mind was keeping me busy. And I've, again,
to a purpose,
very clear purpose, and which fills my soul.
Absolutely.
And then my soul was being supported as it has been my entire life, you know, by individuals in my faith community, but just the faith community of positive spirit.
And connecting to your why and who you want to show up as every day.
Exactly. So I've been really fortunate. I've gotten blasted with twice now with major heavy chemo to remove cancer from my system, but also now we're looking at the maintenance of this. And so immunotherapies and other types of meds is you know what cancer research allows now. And so we've found a different med for me right now. I'm the first Iowan to be on this med. It was FDA approved in September, and I have an amazing oncologist, Dr. Stroh, and we just said, sure, we'll try it. And here I am.
Yeah. Showing up and saying yes.
Yeah, saying yes. And, you know, and so it's the hope, right? I have a vision of this is possible.
Yes.
What are the strategies we need to get there? And here's the cool thing, it's producing results.
Yeah.
And so that's the hope formula. So
And
show up every day.
What it makes me think of is hearing you say, and I know we have to wrap up here, but hearing you say that this journey is been a part of your story, but it's not your sole identity.
No.
So to think of, okay, here's this new medication and there is hope, but if it fails, I don't lose everything of who I am, because my life is filled with lots of other meaning and purpose and a sense of efficacy and connection and belonging. And I believe that I can work through hard things, that sense of capable.
Yeah, and maybe that's where my story started and where it is now. I said, you know, cancer, I didn't have time for this. But it's definitely not who I am. And who I am is a mother, a daughter, a wife, and an educator. I just feel so fortunate to have known so early on in my life of what I wanted to do. And it's been my purpose. And choosing education as my career, it's not a career, it's my life. And my husband also, that's his path. And so this is just who we are. And when you're with others who have that same passion, it's fuel. Fuels the fire of passion. And I truly believe that. And I also know there are other cancer patients who need that support and want to know other stories and want to see what's possible. And getting that news can truly be devastating. And I remember when my doctor's like, this is cancer something, I'm like, I do not have time for this. Yet I'm gonna have to take care of it. So what are we gonna do? Let's get after it.
Well, Noreen, thank you so much for being a part of this interview series. Your story to me is one that I believe can offer such hope and possibility to others who feel like when they receive bad news or when they're going through struggle and when it seems hard to show up the next day, to know I can show up and I can get through hard things because life is worth it and I'm worth it. So thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey with us.
Thanks for having me, and we'll all continue to rise together. So thank you.
Support is out there.
You're okay, just how you are.
The staff members and the people that I met along the way just made me realize that there are genuine people out there that actually just want to help.
Reach out to somebody.
We all want to be loved. That's universal.
Life choices I made may be the reason that I'm having a harder time and not feeling shame in that.
No matter the challenges you and your family face, Tanager Place is here for you. We'll meet you wherever you are in your journey, and together define a path to reach your goals. Together we rise. Tanager Place.
Thank you again for joining us today and for spending time with us. We hope today's segment offered hope and healing. Today's series brought to you by Tanager Place and the Meraki Institute of Learning. For more information, please visit our website.